here ahead of Test 1 in the International Rules Series here in Ireland. Tell us a little bit about the Indigenous nature of the Australian squad, why that is, and what significance it bears out, not just for this test, but in Australian life in general.
Yeah, look, sport's been a really significant vehicle for sort of, I guess, inclusion in Australia, none more so than the AFL, in particular with our Indigenous communities, and we're learning a lot of those, taking a lot of those learnings now and applying it to our new migrant communities. And surprisingly for myself, I mean, I've seen how powerful sport is here in Ireland, and I always knew the Irish were passionate about their sport, but I didn't realise it was as passionate as what I've discovered. So there's a lot of similarities in the way that sport brings the communities together, and it's the glue that keeps communities together. And it really is the sort of the identity of a lot of individuals and a lot of sort of people within communities. So for us to bring our Indigenous team over here, the sporting, the cultural, and the social benefits, I think, are bigger than the game itself in many respects.
Excellent. In terms of this being the first Indigenous squad to travel and possibly play recognised an international test against international opposition, how will it be looked on in terms of Australia in general? How will Australian culture look at it?
Well, I think it's sort of one of those. It drew some different commentary when it was initially discussed, but I think the closer we've got to this test, the more the Australian community have realised the historical significance of having an all-Indigenous team, and I think for the AFL to recognise Australia's First Peoples is a huge statement of reconciliation in many respects. And I mean, I played at St Kilda in 1993. It was only 20 years ago. I was one of 11 Aboriginal players on our AFL list, and we've now got 70, and highlighting and showcasing that contribution at international rules level, I think is really significant. I think it's offensive to suggest that the AFL hasn't set its best team over. I think that's quite a predictive sort of comment. Ultimately, all teams are measured on performance, and I've got no question of our players played our best tonight. 1 for our culture, 1 for our code, and 3 for our country. We'll give a great account of ourselves.
Excellent. That's very good at a time, particularly in Ireland, where Irish culture in general is at a crossroads in terms of language, identity, culture, the Gaeltacht people, and where it goes to in terms of its own Celtic identity or where it's coming from. I suppose, what will be the legacy moving on from this for Aboriginal culture, for the AFL in general? And there are similarities between the links that our countries have together and our Indigenous populations. Could that be further explored?
To me, that's the untapped potential in this series. I think on the face of it, it's the the Indigenous team representing the AFL versus the Gaelic players. But I think below the surface, the cultural and the social and the economic benefits of exploring this to a deeper level, I think, is limitless for both the GAA and the AFL. And I hope at a point in time we're able to sit down and talk about what that actually means, because I think sport in both of our countries are a significant part of our identity, and there are so many teachable moments in sport that I think both codes could look to help shape the future identity for both Irish people and Australian people, not only Aboriginal people, into the future. So I mean, I'm really optimistic and have great visions for what this international rule series could generate for the future.